Hello and welcome to another episode of Blue Alpine TV. In today's episode, we will talk another time about EOS because it's currently quite interesting what is going on. We're seeing kind of a real life example of kind of a mainnet launch as well as some voting and voting rights that have been kind of misused, if you will, but we'll dive into the details right away. And the second story is how do you actually value an exchange token that was currently going on, such as Binance token or Huobi token, and so on. So I will discuss with you guys an article that I found quite interesting. But let's jump right into this first news story. We're talking about EOS again. In the last couple of days, we've talked about EOS a bunch of times, and the question is, of course, why now and why again? It's very similar to kind of what we talked about already. There was kind of a problem on Sunday or Saturday happening that caused the mainnet to kind of pause, and nobody really knew what was happening. But EOS then, or actually Block One, then released kind of a patch for the network. As soon as people have upgraded, this kind of security hole is gone, and what we're looking at right now is this specific story. Most recently, the network's 21 block producers, organizations who verify transactions and validate blocks, froze 7 EOS accounts allegedly belonging to thieves who had stolen funds by scamming users through phishing scams or other attacks. This action occurred on June 17th. Now, the reason why we're currently discussing this is the essence is this tweet by at Whalepool. I will link this up, and it says here: the almighty block producers of EOS.io freeze 7 EOS accounts and will recover any lost funds due to phishing or scamming. And it says here EOS consensus by conference call. And this is kind of a wordplay here, because if you go to Steemit or actually EOS.io's Steemit article, what you can see here is kind of what exactly happened in the last couple of days. It also mentions it in this article as well. So what essentially happened is on June 19th, there was an official decision made to freeze these 7 accounts that you can see here. These are 7 EOS accounts. For the podcast listeners, it's just 7 EOS accounts that we're seeing mentioned in the article that have been frozen. The problem is, and that's not like problematic or anything, EOS has kind of a system in terms of voting and who gets to vote for what. And EOS has different organizations in place that kind of is allowed to rule on these things. One of those organizations is the EOS Core Arbitration Forum, the body to whom this specific decision was delegated. Now, initially refused to order the block producers to freeze the accounts, citing a lack of jurisdiction since EOS token holders have not yet formally ratified the constitution. Now, in this article, it actually says that the decision to freeze those 7 accounts was actually made on June 17th. It was 2 days ago, and it has been made by the block producers. And I think this is kind of the main problem. You can see here the block producers had already frozen the accounts on June 17th, a decision made knowingly in violation of the constitution over a conference call that included block producers and arbiters. Now, normally the block producers are not allowed to make these kind of decisions, and it's especially problematic because they have kind of made that decision before the decision was officially approved by these different bodies or organizations. And I think there are a bunch of things we need to discuss here. On one side, you have the naysayers that are saying kind of EOS is too centralized, but at the same time, it's kind of, as far as I know, it's a delegated system. So you can kind of vote for the block producers, you can vote for the different people that are in the different organizations. Very similar to a parliament, if you will, that represents the people. Now, on paper, it sounds very much like a democracy. You vote for the delegates kind of vote for your rights or by representing the people. And this works very well on paper or in practice in certain governments. Now, what is a problem right now, or what this article and a lot of people on Twitter and the social medias are talking about, is essentially that EOS is more run like an oligarchy. So you have a couple of people in power that are overruling certain decision positions or decision organizations that are technically in position to make these decisions. So this is kind of the main problem that a lot of people have with EOS. So on one side you have kind of this theory or this somewhat centralized cryptocurrency that a lot of people do believe in. I mean, the price has been going up for a while now. It has come down a little bit since then, but still it's a lot of people like it. On the other side, you have a lot of people in the decentralized camp who are saying, no, this is exactly what we don't want, because exactly what happened in this case with the overruling, this is the situation we kind of want to avoid, because technically it is very similar to the fiat system, where a central bank or any kind of bank is deciding that funds or accounts can be closed or opened in any kind of way. And I tend to understand both perspectives. What I think is really interesting, what is happening right now, is that we're literally facing and experiencing the situation where this theory collides with reality, and it doesn't work always like we thought it would work. I don't have anything against or for EOS. I think EOS is still an interesting project, but these problems that they're facing right now is exactly why I think cryptocurrency is still at the very, very early stage. We will have to run through these types of problems in order to kind of get to the next level. Maybe it won't be EOS, maybe it won't be Ethereum, maybe it won't be Bitcoin, maybe it will be the next generation of cryptocurrencies that will kind of rule and kind of overshadow all of these problems. But at the same time, it's very possible that EOS might be the one, and it's iteratively that we're going to become to get to the top like this. Nonetheless, if you're one of those 7 accounts, that's a huge problem. Like you will be pissed about this decision, and I'm not really sure whether you can do a lot of things against this. I think you should engage in the community if you have one of those accounts. I saw that on the Steemit article, it actually said that one of those people in the commenting sections had actually one of those accounts, so that's pretty crazy if you think about it. So try to work with the community there, and most importantly, don't buy any accounts, don't buy any tokens from people that you're not really sure, etc., etc. So all of these things are kind of an experience for all of us as a crypto community. I don't think we should point fingers. We should try to learn from each other and from those mistakes. Works very well in theory, will collide with reality, and maybe won't work in practice. So this is exactly what we're seeing here. Hopefully this will be the last news on EOS so far, but nonetheless it is quite interesting to look at. I will share the tweet as well as the article with you guys, so you can look through it also on a kind of not regulatory or legal aspect, but more of kind of what the decision behind which organization from EOS has been made. Next up, we have an interesting an article that I have found on Twitter today, valuing BNB token, how Binance could 2x BNB coin value overnight. Now, CoinFee is trying to become the Bloomberg of cryptocurrency while supplying financial information about cryptocurrencies. And what they're doing in this article specifically is to look at exchange tokens and kind of see whether they're under or overvalued. And they are starting by looking at BNB and Huobi token and saying that a lot of the value of the BNB and Huobi token has been coming up in the last couple of months, while Bitcoin, for example, was constantly going down. So obviously exchange tokens are quite interesting. It then goes a bit into the numbers and into the discount system, which I have shared in the quick analysis with you guys on Saturday as well. And then it actually shows that potentially, if you look at the discount system, technically by year 5, the value of BNB token could go to 0. Don't forget, we're in year 1, so after this, year 2 applies, so the discount will be 25%, and technically the transaction fees that have been saved, or the transaction fees that have been saved in yearly amounts, could go to 0 essentially. Now, what exactly does this tell you? Is BNB overvalued? Is it undervalued? Read through the article and kind of make your own decision, because it shows you also a scenario how BNB token could be valued at around 41 US dollars, which is around 3 times the value it is right now. And there are different methods how the BNB value could be kept up. So for example, let's say the discounts will be removed after year 5. Yes, that's true. And then BNB token technically doesn't really serve at a real purpose. But it could very well be that Binance is saying, well, after this, we will start paying dividends for BNB holders. So it is in your interest to kind of hold BNB, to trade with BNB, and all of these things. I think BNB, especially Binance token, has kind of an inherent value. We will have to see what Binance will announce with BNB still. Nonetheless, I do believe that exchange tokens should be part of your investment thesis. Think about it, whether you believe in it or not, and depending on that, maybe make a small portfolio, kind of diversify your existing portfolio. And with that, guys, we're already at the end of today's episode. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.